Hi, I'm Kath, and I'm the Associate Editor at Young Adulting Review. We are an online magazine based out of the University of British Columbia, where we post serious reviews of books for kids and teens. And I am thrilled to be joined today by Chloe Savage. Chloe is an author and illustrator based in England. She studied a BA in TV and film set design at Cardiff University, and she did her MA in children's book illustration at the Cambridge School of Art. And her debut picture book, The Search for the Great Arctic Jellyfish, was met with significant critical acclaim. Aside from being my favourite book of the past year, it received multiple starred reviews. It was named the Sunday Times and Financial Times Book of the Year, the Waterstones Best Illustrated Book of 2024, and was shortlisted for the Yodo Carnegie Medal for Illustration in 2024. A huge achievement for a debut. Truly, congratulations.
Thank you. Huge amount of pressure on a debut book, isn't it?
I
But
bet you must be
honestly,
very
magical.
proud and very
So
overwhelmed.
proud. Yeah, because I don't think anyone makes a book expecting it to do like crazy well, but I've been really lucky. Very, very lucky.
And very well deserved.
Thank you.
Now, I'm wondering, your background is in TV and film, which
Mm.
is very cool, and opera as well, but slightly removed from picture books. So, can you talk us through the path that took you from set dressing to a master's in illustration?
Well, it's sort of it seems, yes, okay, it seems like it's disconnected, but ultimately it's actually deeply connected because it's words and pictures together, and it's just two different forms of words and pictures. Because when you're dealing with a script and visuals, it's exactly the same as dealing with a picture book text and picture book art. And there are so many similarities between the format of a screen and a camera or a stage set with a book. Because when you open a physical picture book, there is something theatrical about that layout and that sort of approach. So if you think about it as words and pictures together, it's absolutely completely interconnected. There are so many things you learn when you're learning about making a beautiful set on stage or on screen, which is about design and good design principles, and they completely carry across. And I think you can very much see that in my work, particularly early stuff. You can really see that I've very much got my film hat on. And in lots of like the feedback I get and things I would sort of say in my notes to my editors would be like very sort of film language rather than using a sort of like publishing vocabulary. So that
Mm.
was a big, big, big stretch. But no, they're completely connected. I mean, the first jellyfish I ever drew was on the back of a script, which was a terrible docudrama about a serial killer. So when I take the first jellyfish drawing around to show children, I have it sealed inside a plastic wallet because the children cannot read it. It's not appropriate at all. So the first jellyfish is drawn on the back of that, and it's about 10 years ago. My sister at the time was working in northern Thailand she was in a lagoon, was WhatsApping me photographs of coral and palm trees and blue water. It was disgusting. And I was so miserably jealous. I just started doodling jellyfish, and then the jellyfish would solve the problem of the day, whatever it was, because there's a million problems to solve when you work in film. Always
Yeah.
be a jellyfish. And then I realized I was so deeply unhappy working in film. The hours are obnoxious. The working conditions are not necessarily the most conducive to a happy life.
Mm.
And it just through a combination of life events and things, I made the transition. I went to Cambridge School of Art and did my MA in children's book illustration. And I'm so glad I did because you learn so much. And I would never be the sort of bookmaker I am now if I hadn't gone to study. But I'm really glad I did my old job. Because yeah, I hated it, but it's informed sort of who I am and the work I make now. And I think my work is sort of better for it. And
Mm.
also the life skills you get when you've done a sort of diverse number of jobs in your life. There's definite like wisdom of life that sort of like comes with you, and that feeds into the work too. But yeah,
Yeah.
they're completely connected for sure.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Um, on your MA, what were some of the key takeaways that you have and things that you would use kind of on a daily basis? Like I know in our typed interview, you mentioned making dummy books. Can you kind of talk us through that process?
So the MA is so competitive and so hard. it is it's sort of the first time I went to an editorial meeting after I got my first book contract when I graduated.
Mm.
I went into the editorial meeting thinking it would be like a crit on the MA. And the
Yeah.
crit is really highly pressured. You're gonna be pushed and pushed to be better and better. And so I went to my first editorial meeting armed with, all of my research, and I was ready to defend my work and protect my work and like justify myself. And it was the complete polar opposite. It was this gentle, lovely energy of, it's your book and these are suggestions. If you don't like it, we can do something different. And it completely wrong-footed me, completely. Because the dummy book process is a sort of, it's a process of failure and necessary failure. If you're not trying and experimenting really hard, then you probably aren't pushing it hard enough. So dummy book processing when you're on the MA is condensed. You do it in 6 weeks and the pressure is high. It's mad. It's absolutely mad, but it makes you over that 6 weeks, you can physically see your improvement. And that's incredible. That is remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah.
But in the real life, it takes much, much longer. It happens over the process of months and in a much more augmented way. So there's time to sort of flesh things out and get things wrong. And it's different every time, and my process is constantly evolving. But there are key principles from the MA which I hold in my head when I'm doing this. And the first one is the most important, actually, which is what James Mayhew said, which is just make work that you like. And I thought, bing, that makes so much sense. It feels really obvious, but it doesn't feel obvious when you're sort of in the thick of it and, things are going wrong or aren't as you imagined. So that principle is first in my mind. And gosh, there's so much that goes on. So if I'm starting a new project, I'm starting one right now actually. And so we go through a stage of dummy book making at the beginning, which is about really intense research for me. So I'm in by no means an expert in any of the things I've ever made a book about. So I do a crazy amount of research so that I'm well informed, but also so that it informs my imagination.
Mm.
So there's a point, this is also a Cambridge lesson, there's a point where the research needs to be studied and assimilated and then put to one side.
Mhm.
Because then it's time for your imagination to really take hold of that research and to, exaggerate it or augment it or just use it as food for other thoughts. But that research period is incredibly important because there's so many really fine details in the book, particularly around the cross sections
Mm.
where everything has to make sense. And I've had really lovely messages from scientists being like, I've read your book with my kid. Have you ever been on a research vessel then? Because it's so correct. And it's like, yes, thank you. Thank you. Yes. So
That's such
that's a really,
feedback.
go on.
It's such great feedback for you. Have you ever been on a research vessel?
No, and I would love to. If anyone out there is looking to send me into the middle of French Polynesia on a boat so that I can, I don't know, draw lovely things and enjoy the science, please invite me. I'd be so happy to go. So that's a really important time. So all of that research, and it is so much research.
Mm.
That bit is the crazy dummy book part where words and pictures come together for me. So there will be scraps of paper and all of these little bits and pieces which eventually need to be whittled down into that 32 or 40 page format, whatever we're dealing with. And that is a crazy time. And I think there are at least 17 versions of the jellyfish book. 17 versions, whole versions of the jellyfish book before we got it right. That's like 16 failures. It's bonkers, but very necessary. So the whole process is about scribbles and then better scribbles with different words and paintings and scribbles and words together. And it sort of eventually comes to a sweet spot where it clicks. There are some spreads which never change, which start off as, a tiny scribble with the words, and then that's it. That's all it'll ever be. It's perfect in its first form. There are other spreads which take a lot of wrangling and text moving around. And because the text and the words are so interdependent,
Mm.
that can be very tricky. So it'll be different versions of dummy books will go from scribbles and words to eventually roughs with words together. And all the time, I'll be sending these things to my editors who are so amazing, so amazing. And then the dummy book becomes a better dummy book. But this happens over months when you do. I mean, you must be finding this on your MA at the moment. Timelines are sort of skewed in education, which aren't how they are in the real world. But it's lovely to take all this work into schools and show kids and,
Mm.
let them hold the early dummy books and be like, look, that didn't work. We learned a lesson here. I tried something here. It didn't work. This experimentation was terrible. And we moved on and we got better. It's such a chaotic process, isn't it? And there's just so much work that goes into making one very thin, very tiny, tiny book. There's heaps of it. It's ridiculous. But it's amazing. It is so much fun.
It's very, very fun. Um, I'm wondering, with your research, do you, how do you go about it? And are there any particular books or documentaries that you found like really useful, particularly for your first two books? Was there like a crossover with the research you did for those?
There sort of wasn't any crossover because with the Arctic stuff, like a lot of it is like National Geographic and YouTube, so many hours of YouTube, just like the amount of content that's out there from, all sorts of science organizations from around the world. Like there's so much content to consume. There's a little amount of crossover there. For the second book for Carmella, there was a lot of physical research. I like to go to the library and I like to flick through every book I can find, particularly visual reference books are quite hard to find sometimes, like books with really good visual reference. You can often get good nonfiction texts, which are a lot of text and not enough visual content. So I read all that I can in physical form, but there's no one particular thing. Lots of it is just, a little bit from here, a little bit from there, lots of David Attenborough documentaries and loads of YouTube, so much YouTube. There's just, that's the other problem, of course, with research, is what I'm saying there is that it's just too much. It's too much. Like you can't consume it all. You can't. Like I still get sent things I've never seen before. And I did in-depth research and people will still send me articles and things which I didn't find. And you think, how is that possible? That's the difficulty, isn't it? And you can drown in research. You really can get lost.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming and then it becomes harder. I think particularly with Carmella, I did so much research and then whittling it down and sieving out the things which can be lost, which are truly irrelevant and don't need to sort of be in the imaginative world you're creating, gets so hard when there's just too much. So that's a really fine line between sort of procrastinating enough in research to have the, creative random ideas versus
Yeah.
stop procrastinating and really, whittle down because I think there's a fine line for me between in-depth research and me just procrastinating on not wanting to have to actually put this into a dummy book. But honestly, like that, I've got so many reference books which aren't necessarily to do with deep sea research. So some of it will be like graphics books by like Saul Bass or someone like that, or like the Moreau Fables, or any sort of like impressionist art books and things. I have lots of like Gauguin and things like that because I really like how they sort of lay out their images and how
Mhm.
the way you can then imagine text being placed and like that can really influence my work. And that's research, I think, which is sort of not, related to the sea, but it's related to good design. And all of that feeds into the work too, because shouldn't just be about this one laser focused thing. There
Mhm.
is research and things which have impacted the layouts in the book from films I've been to see or gallery shows I've been to or theatre I've seen, which all feeds in. All of it does. But honestly, there's just so much research, so many gorgeous, gorgeous books, so many beautiful things. It's too much, really. It's overwhelming. It actually is overwhelming.
Yeah. Gosh, I hadn't even thought, but that's a whole nother side of it is just the non-science aspect to it. Because your spreads are so beautifully cinematic. Like I remember when Jellyfish first came in to work and we were looking through it and just gobsmacked. Everyone's like, "Oh, it's so Wes Anderson-y." Like, oh yeah, the little red hats.
People go mad for that, but like it's very simple. Like people often say like, oh, it's so Wes Anderson, but the red hats. It's like no, it's because in the Arctic you need to be the most foreign body there. If you
Yeah,
fall into the water, you either need to be neon yellow or bright red.
yeah.
And neon yellow just didn't work in terms of printing the book and all the other things. So red was the option. And so many people think it's like this, this connection, and it's not. It's just common sense.
Um, I can see behind you. a certain book. So I believe today is the publication day for The Search
It
for
is.
Carmilla in the UK. Congratulations.
Thank you. Happy book birthday.
Yes, we have to wait for a few more months in North America, unfortunately. So can you tell us a little bit about what we can expect?
It is a so we follow a new scientist, Dr. Rose, and we go down into the deep sea and we find a bioluminescent sea monster called Carmella, or we try to. It's about mindfulness, really. It's about the art of searching for things and finding the joy in the journey. So it's Rose has a pilot with her called Anne, who's very, very good at mindfulness and is a great friend, and who is very good at finding the things around her which are beautiful and enjoyable. Whereas Rose is so laser focused on finding a Carmella that she cannot appreciate all of the beautiful things around her. But it's lovely. We're in the deep sea and we glow, and it's very, very lovely. But it was absolutely bonkers. There's a Carmella.
Oh,
She's so very, very pink and it's lovely. Everything glows in the dark, which was a huge painting challenge, really big painting challenge. But yeah, it's just so lovely to have a different scientist because and it's so blue and so lovely.
uh,
So wonderful. There's so many creatures in the deep, and there's crabs that escape in the beginning of the book, and the crabs cause mischief and cause trouble all the way through. Everyone has their own personalized Hawaiian shirt. Every pattern is a gift for someone I know. It's a little Easter egg and a gift for
oh, I
them.
love that.
It is so much fun. I love it. Yeah, it's all about the absolute joy in searching, the joy in finding the love in the journey. Because the living part of life isn't in your end goal. It's like such a short amount of time. If you ever, when you finish your master's and you graduate, you hand in your final thesis and it's there you go, it's done.
Yeah,
This culmination of all this work is this tiny little brief moment in your life. And I think the key maybe to finding contentment or joy is in actually finding the joy in the living bit in between, in the day-to-day stuff. We're saving up for a house deposit, and it's so easy to be living in the future and the
yeah,
possibility of a house and what that will be like, and having a garden, and it's all over there. But actually, there's so much to enjoy in the here and now. We live in an attic flat, it's tiny, but there's so much to savor, and it's very easy, isn't it, to live in those future moments or in the past and not necessarily live in your present joy. It's really difficult, but it's a
yeah.
lovely thing to talk to children about, and I've been really enjoying doing that recently, and kids just get it. They absolutely get it. I had a message from a mum after a session saying, on the car on the way home, my little girl was pointing at all the things she liked that smelt nice in the car or that felt nice and that looked nice around her. I thought, yes, wonderful. Kids just get it. I think
Yeah,
they find it much easier than we do to be present, genuinely present in the moment.
yeah.
It's lovely. There must be, Kath, there must be so many things in your room. I mean, you look around you, like you have a lovely jellyfish behind you. You've got a beautiful space. Like there's so much to be grateful for.
Yeah, that's true. And it's something that we forget all the time as adults. Yeah,
Yeah, it's hard to do, isn't it?
it is.
It really is. It takes a lot of like direct energy to keep yourself present and, not to focus on anxieties of tomorrow or later, but what is
Yeah.
lovely here and now. Little pockets of joy.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And I can't wait for it to come out. Very
I can't
excited.
wait either. I think, yeah, you have a few months to wait, I'm afraid,
Yeah.
I think.
Start of February. So soonish. Soonish.
Yeah, yeah, the spring will be coming by then.
Oh, for sure. Um, I have one last question for you, I think. Um, you really focus on strong female scientists, which I so appreciate. And I wonder, are they based on any one or, group of women that you know or that have read about? Like
That's a
where
lovely
they come from?
question. It is all of the women in my life. And if if you meet the women in my life, you would completely understand why they are there. They are just in it in every single way. In the second book, In the Search for Carmella, there's two female characters in the lead, really. We have Rose and we have Anne, and they are both very much my sister, very much. And the duality and the contradiction in the two characters as well is very like my sister. Because we have, Rose, who is completely anxious about the past being gone and the future coming, and it's all happening here and now and all the time. And it's very stressful. And then there's Anne, who has this great capacity for novelty and joy. And I think the duality of that is so human. And,
Yeah.
you know, just for Carmella alone, like, you know, focusing on Dr. Rose and my sister, you know, it's this brave and steadfast and patient, beautiful soul. And you see this all around me, and my mum and my aunties and like the women I work with at Walker and my agent, like these are formidable, incredible, intelligent, useful women who are out in the world making beautiful things and contributing in a beautiful way. And it's so, so, so important that our young people see this. Because still, like on school visits, occasionally boys will still assume that Dr. Morley was actually a man because it's a doctor, which is agony to me, agony, agony. And honestly, I think that hopefully will come to a time, maybe it won't be soon, but maybe our society will reach a point where actually it will be irrelevant what your gender is,
Mm.
and that actually what we will value is your job and your role and what you're contributing rather than your gender in doing it. And I think we're a long way from there. So in the meantime, our young people, particularly my young people, need to be seeing that
Yeah.
women can be leaders, women can be scientists, women can be all of these things. Women can be explorers. They can be anything they want to be, and we have to see that. We
Yeah.
have to see that present in the books we're putting in their hands. We must, because otherwise we'll never reach that point where your gender is secondary to the value you're bringing to society and the people around you. It's so, so important. No, all of the women in my life are everywhere. And I'm really lucky, particularly in my female friends. Like these are formidable ladies. They really are. I'm incredibly lucky. And how could they not infuse the work? How could they not be impossible to not be influenced by them? Not just in the work, but in like how I approach my life. You know, it's absolutely fueled by them. They're amazing. Honestly, Kath, I'm so lucky.
Oh, that's so good. And what a beautiful way to honor them as well in your books. I love
And
it.
they so deserve it. They really do. They really do. Because it's not easy, is it? You know, I think particularly, you know, in the instance of my sister, you know, she's a full-time mum, you know, with babies and illness, and there's all these things going on, and it's a huge burden. And, you know, to see the women around me, you know, carrying their burdens so gracefully, like you can only honor it.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And I'm so grateful that you are putting these books out into the world for the kids to see these powerful, formidable women doing really cool deep ocean exploring.
Yes, absolutely.
Uh, I think I'm like, oh, if I had this book when I was a kid, maybe I too would be a deep ocean explorer.
Or maybe you would have transitioned out of it after you realized that you really didn't like being wet and salty most of the time, and you'd have gone and done something completely different.
Maybe, maybe. Oh, well, thank you so much for chatting today, Chloe. Really appreciate it. And congratulations again on all of your many successes. We can't wait to see what's coming next.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. It really is. Thank you for having me.
No worries.